Every state requires charter schools to be audited on an annual basis. The rules that apply may vary from state to state. Charter schools receiving federal funds will likely have to comply with Office of Management and Budget Circular Number A-87, which includes cost principles for state, local, and Indian tribal units. Charter schools receiving federal funds will also have to comply with the amended version of Office of Management and Budget Circular Number A-123, which addresses management's responsibilities. States generally require charter schools to undergo a single audit. If the school received more than $700,000 of federal funds, the audit will have additional new federal audit requirements under the U.S. Department of Education Office of Inspector General. Your charter school must approve a contract with a certified public accountant to conduct an independent single audit. Your board should set policies and procedures in place to ensure that your school is maintaining proper documentation and operating in accordance with all applicable rules and regulations. When the fiscal year closes, you should promptly have all documents and records available so the auditor can timely complete the required audit. Approved budgets are the roadmap for charter school financial operations. The charter school board should adopt an annual operating budget before the start of each fiscal year. The board should also adopt individual federal program budgets. The board should establish a budget review schedule and amend budgets as needed. Audits will review these budgets to determine whether the board has approved all expenditures made during the fiscal year. The auditor will also examine whether you have sufficient internal controls, insurance, and whether you have properly documented expenditures. The auditor will examine if you have expended any funds on unallowable costs. The auditor will examine federal programs by category. The auditor will review bank statements and cancel checks and review where regular bank reconciliations were completed. The auditor will review signature requirements and supporting documentation for expenditures. The auditor will review contracts, leases, inventories, and accounts of assets and liabilities. The auditor will test certain transactions and determine whether your school properly used state-approved accounting software and adhered to state-approved chart of accounts. The auditor will prepare a draft report. The school will work with the auditor to complete a management discussion and analysis section for the audit report. A final report will be completed and submitted to the proper state agency for final approval. If there are adverse findings or question costs, your board will be required to promptly address these issues. This is just an introductory video. Your board should plan ahead to avoid adverse findings and question costs. The board should gain a basic understanding of generally accepted accounting principles and learn any special rules related to charter schools that impact the audit. Be careful to observe all audit deadlines. There may be deadlines in your state for completing the audit contract as well. You should be conscious of the terms closeout, the 30-day window prior to the end of the accounting year is called the closeout period. During this time, you should amend any budgets that do not align and make sure that your board has provided oversight of the closeout. You should manage the closeout with care. Some funds may revert to state or federal government if not expended within the accounting period. Any final cost allocation should be completed during the closeout to avoid reversions where possible. Once your audit report is final, it is a public record. Many charter schools post their audit reports on their school website.